warm welcome from the Munjal Institute for Global Manufacturing at the Indian School of Business. I am Colonel Rajiv Bhargav, and I do hope that you and your close ones are all safe and secure in these difficult COVID times. Today, we have a very interesting topic, and that is simplification before automation. Automation, Industry 4.0, deep learning, artificial intelligence, robotics are all very buzzwords, very high sounding words and glamorous words. However, when it comes to real implementation, in India at least, a lot of industries are lacking in the basics of automation. Now, automation can be a key to business efficiency, but only if done right. It can reduce cost, create more throughput, and in many cases, it can improve quality. And theoretically, any process can be automated. But it is plain easier to automate a simple process than a complex process. And the greater the complexity, the greater the difficulty and the cost. So smart organizations, they know that if they first simplify a process before they automate it, it will ultimately lead to reaping the greatest amount of rewards from the automation process. So again, as I said, a very interesting topic, and I have the very right person to take this session. So Professor Pratap Sundar has 3 decades of experience as a teacher, trainer, consultant, and as a director of a manufacturing company. He has done his BTech, MTech, and his PhD from the Northeastern University at Boston. And he has also been an assistant professor at NITI for 8 years at Bombay. He has done the theory of constraints right from the master, that is Professor Goldratt at Boston, and has done his training in axiomatic design at MIT at Boston. Currently, he is the academic director at the Munjal Institute for Global Manufacturing and the Punj Lloyd Institute of Infrastructure Management, and he is an adjunct professor of operation management at the Indian School of Business. So he is a fervent explorer of nature and science and has taken a lot of sessions in biomimicry and how nature impacts design and manufacturing. So I feel that he is exactly the right person to talk to you about simplicity, basically because there can be no one more simple than nature, and he has done a very deep study about nature. So I won't take any more time, and over to you, Professor.
Thank you for your kind words, Colonel Rajiv Bhargava. And I am very happy to start this presentation. Let me share my screen. Are you able to see, Rajiv?
Not yet, sir.
No?
No, not yet. Sir, on the mute, under the mute section on the right hand side, there is this new shared screen option.
Yeah.
You just click that.
Yeah, you got it.
Can you just go in slideshow? Yes.
Good evening to all. Today we have a very interesting topic as explained by Colonel Rajiv Bhargava. And this is for about 45 minutes. Then we will have Q&A. And this is my very favorite study. I've been involved in many automation projects in my career. So there is a methodology called ESSA methodology, which simply means eliminate, simplify, standardize, and automate. In other words, you have to eliminate waste in the processes. It could be products and process, and then process can be a manufacturing process or a supply chain process or a service process and so on. So this is the first step, and all the unnecessary waste which costs a lot of money to the companies must be eliminated first. Then you look for simplification. If you sometimes we cannot eliminate the products or process, then you try to simplify it. Once you simplify it, then you standardize the process. Standardization in the sense you have to write standard operating procedure or the revised design, accepted design. All these things must be done for standardization. Once you standardize, you look for opportunities for horizontal deployment in your company, where all it can be implemented. For example, there could be many similar products. There could be many similar processes. There could be many similar manufacturing steps. So you look for opportunities for horizontal deployment. You deploy them, then see the results. Then you select a pilot project for automation. If you are successful, then you can automate all the all the processes that you have selected for automation. So in summary, this slide says, first try to eliminate waste, then simplify it, then standardize it, and then only automate. If you want to go for automation straightforward, that is a wrong approach. So this is the summary of ESA approach or ESA methodology. Now I'll give one example from my own experience. First is about a product, then we see an example in the supply chain, then we will see an example in the service design. So product cost, as you know, is set at the design stage. If you don't take care of the design properly, then you're not going to gain much later in the manufacturing or supply chain operations or in the field with the customer. So this is what you have to keep in mind. And from my own experience, long back, about 13 years back, much before the Industry 4.0 came into existence, sometime in 2013, during Hanover Messe. So I took this was in 2007. So I took two competing models of the rechargeable emergency emergency lamp from the market, whatever is available. You go there, you can find 10 different models or 20 different models. Most of them are imported from China, but these both models are manufactured in India. I took this study. You see on the table that is displayed in the slide, one is a Tribal LED, another is Ascendo. These are the brand names. And what is the main functionality? That is to give light, how many lux, whether it is 360 degrees light or 120 degrees light. These things are collected, data is collected about the price, warranty, and primary functionality. What is the primary function? Then I did the part count. In one model, in the Tribal LED, there are 55 components. In the second model, there are 29 components. These components again are broken down into metallic, how many metal components, how many plastic components, how many glass components, how many paper components, rubber components, and so on. I did the study, then how many are purchased, how many are made in-house, how many processes are required. For example, injection molding is a process. Electroplating is a process. Painting is a process. Assembly is a process. So these process, how many different processes are employed in manufacturing these things? How many moving parts are there? As you know, the more the moving parts, the less the reliability because of wear and tear and so on. How many fasteners are there? How many switches are there? How many springs are there? So all this data is collected, and also assembly time and assembly number of steps in the assembly and the difficulty level of the assembly and the number of tools required for the assembly. Assembly time and disassembly time. Disassembly time for service purposes. So this is the study I did, and one product was about to be launched, which is a Tribal LED with a company whom I know very well. No, I have worked for that company for the last 30 years as a trainer and a consultant. So the more the components, the more the cost. The simple reason is that you have to source the component, or you have to make it yourself. Then you have to negotiate the price. Not all components are manufactured in-house. Many are purchased from outside. Then you you have the purchase orders, then the material receipts, invoices, and so on. All this are involved into, you can count the number of steps for each different part that goes into your product, final product. The less the number of components, the less the cost. This is one simple rule. So this is what I did, and I advised the company not to launch the product, but they launched the product, and which miserably failed in the market because of cost, and you cannot price it more than the competing models of equivalent functionality. So this is my first experience. What is simplification here? Eliminate components, eliminate moving parts, eliminate number of process, manufacturing steps, eliminate number of switches, eliminate number of springs. All these things are required during the product design stage itself. That is what we mean by the first step in the SR methodology. Eliminate, simplify. By elimination, you are simplifying. So that is the relationship between eliminate and simplify. Now, if you look at a small, even the water sink gasket stopper, see one design on the left-hand side, you can see part count 13. On the right-hand side, you see the simple design, which is with a part count on 2 parts. So obviously, the manufacturing company which makes and sells this left side sink stopper, it has cost will be very much. It may not be able to succeed in the market because functionality is not sacrificed by simplicity. That's what we understand by the two part the stopper on the right side. And not only this, you see, this is recently I read about this. Tesla is making the underbody. You can see on the underbody left, the conventional design. On the right-hand side, their revolutionary design. This underbody, core underbody, has about 70 components. And on the right-hand side, they want to reduce these 70 components into single component by aluminum casting. On the left-hand side, the underbody, the picture you are seeing, has 70 components made of sheet metal. It may be high-strength steel, aluminum alloys, and the mild steel. Various 3 or 4 different types of steels are used to make the underbody. To make this underbody, you have to assemble 70 components. To assemble 70 components, each component must be made somewhere in the factory by metal stamping, then painting, all these things are surface coating. So many things have to be done. What Tesla has done is that they want to reduce these 70 components into single component. By that, this is the picture of the single component of the underbody. And The cost savings of the underbody is huge. The part count reduction is 79. Overall, the car itself, these are all for electric cars. Car mass reduction, that means weight reduction of the car will be 10%. Therefore, once weight is reduced, you have increased range, which is very critical to sell the electric vehicles. So overall, they want to do this for the front underbody also, and the entire chassis, and they want to reduce this part count by 370 parts thick. You can imagine the amount of simplicity that will be there in the manufacturing shop when you reduce 370 components, and you are also pleasing the customer in terms of increased range. This is the latest example. You can read about this example on Google. And to get the underbody or the entire chassis, normal presses, now press means the die casting, high pressure die casting machine will not be useful, and they have to go for giga presses, something like 5,000 tons injection pressure or 6,000 tons in the injection pressure. There is one company in Italy which supplies this giga presses. That is, company name is Idra. This is the giga press, which is about 4-story high, and then this giga press is installed at Tesla facilities in Fremont, in the California state. What I want to tell you is that, do you have a vision before automation? Anything can be automated. As Colonel Rajiv said, everything can be automated, except the human creativity and such things still in the realm of human beings. So what Tesla said, what Elon Musk said was, move aside robots, bring in the aluminum casting. That means 70 parts have to be welded by robots. You need to build a welding line with a lot of advanced robots to weld the 70 parts to create the underbody. But with single aluminum casting, you don't need to buy those a number of robots and put up a welding line, which will have a lot of problems. It is not so very simple to create a robotic welding line. So that's what, automation. Don't go for automation. Why don't you reduce Tesla's Elon Musk thought, and his team thought, why don't you reduce the number of components, make it a casting, not a welding. Don't create a robotic welding line. So this will reduce the costs. This will increase the range of the vehicle. This will also simplify the entire steps by reducing the lead time to manufacture the cars. There is a waiting list for Tesla cars. The production is not able to cope up. The supply chain is not able to cope up. When you do this small thing, like eliminate 70 components, reduce it to one component, then your lead time reduces. You can make cars faster and send it to the market, to the waiting customers. Another example from my own experience I want to share. This is a robotic welding line in one of the companies which I used to consult with. And robotic painting lines are very complicated, whether they are manual painting lines or robotic painting lines. They are often the defect rate is very high. So visual inspection and then rectification or rejection, no, those things are costly. One Japanese company has come out with this idea. Don't paint your cars, the car body, but use a thin film. It's a plastic film of different colors. By vacuum formation, you can get whatever film you want onto the car body, such as doors or the handles or the hoods and those things. So this is going to revolutionize the manufacturing steps, because companies don't need to put the complex robotic painting lines, but a thin film will do. And this is often defect free. You can guarantee 0 defects because the process is simple, and then you get whatever color you want, and then texture you want, the pattern you want, and you have a lot of choices in terms of patterns, colors, those things the compared to the uh, robotic painting line. So this is one example of simplicity. And when you put robots, for example, you have to analyze the end of form toolings. End of form tooling is very important because the micromotion analysis, which I did for many companies on the robotic automation projects. So I observed that the robotic end of form tooling is very important in order to simplify the process itself by using one scientific tool called micromotion analysis. So many now sustainability is gaining a lot of importance. As you all know, the lot of recycling robots, there's so much research going on recycling robots, and which will have vision capability to identify the material or the shape of the object and pick up by vacuum suckers and then classify. Because for people working on the recycling assembly lines or disassembly lines is not healthy, because the material contains a lot of virus, a lot of contaminants. It's not healthy. So a lot of research is going on. What I'm trying to say is, again, the end of form tooling is very important here. Now at ISB, we have this program, Advanced Management Program for Manufacturing and Operations. I had the privilege of teaching all these important tools to the last batch. First is DFX. X stands for manufacturability, assemblability, quality, reliability, sustainability, and so on. Design for excellence. Simply, it is called design for excellence. Then axiomatic design. How do you simplify the product design itself by using axiomatic design? That was what we taught, including design structure matrix and micromotion analysis. And these are the tools that we cover. These are world-class tools. If you don't know this, you will never become a good product designer. You can never be able to simplify the product design, because product design is very, very important. So various tools are available. For example, value stream mapping to manufacturing in the manufacturing process or service process or supply chain process. You can use value stream mapping. This is one of the tools which we teach in the advanced management program for manufacturing and operations. So use the 8 ways, which is simplified with the acronym called downtime. So many of you might be really familiar with lean concepts. So defects, overproduction, waiting, and so on. All these are waste, 7, 8 wastes. You need to eliminate these things in order to simplify the processes. In the office operations, you look at people. What do they? What are they doing in the office process? There is regular work, for example. These are approximate numbers. This is not based on any study, deep study. Regular work may be 70%, firefighting may be 20%, and improvement work may be 10%. These are arbitrary percentages. And you identify non-value adding activities or steps in the regular work. Then you identify what is a repetitive work. Then you identify what is a non-repetitive work. Then in regular work, is there any decision making? For example, in the invoice processing, should you accept the invoice or reject the invoice because of some errors or whatever? You have to identify. So there are the strategy for non-value adding activity is based on the 8 ways that we already saw. Strategy, this is the strategy 1. So work content added by wastes. So like this, then you come to repetitive work. What is the repetitive work? So try to eliminate or combine or rearrange or simplify or automate or outsource. These are all the strategies for repetitive work. Non-repetitive work, probably you cannot automate. It is not possible to automate non-repetitive work. Decision making with the artificial intelligence tools, many decisions can be automated. Many decision-making situations can be simplified. And if possible, you can use, for example, RPA, robotic process automation, in the situations which are appropriate. Or you can see the 90% can be automated, but 10% of the decision making will be still human. Those decisions you can take. This is a strategy number 3. Firefighting. Usually firefighting is very high in many companies. This should be based on fix the process. That means you do the process analysis, you do the process audits, and then try to fix the process so that firefighting will become zero. So these are the 4 strategies for automation in the case of office operations, and to improve all these things, all strategies, to implement all strategies, a deep study is required, which is based on improvement work. I will give another example of supply chain. Supply chain, no, I want to give this classic example. Excuse me, sorry. See, supply chain. This is actually, it happened in 1980s. There was a depression in the automotive factories, in automotive market in the North America. Then Ford has to cut down the costs in order to cope up with the reduced sales. And they thought about automation. What is that? They took, this is one example, in the accounts payable in entire North American operations of Ford. That means the Mexico, Canada, US and Canada. There were 500 people in the accounts payable. Now, what is accounts payable? You raise a purchase order, then the material comes from the vendor, supplier, then the stores people, they receive, they count, check the quality, then raise a material receipt, then send it to the accounts. Accounts will receive, the vendor sends the invoice. Now there are 3 documents here: purchase order, material receipt, and the invoice. Usually there are mismatches between the numbers. So reconciliation, that takes a lot of time, firefighting work, and that is how Ford was operating. Now, in order to reduce the number of people, they thought of bringing in computers. This was in 1990s. Please remember, not much before Industry 4.0 came into existence. But this is a classic case, which I like very much. No. So then they estimated that by automation means the computers, ERP, typical ERP, for example, like SAP. So they thought 25% of the people can be reduced. That is the maximum reduction possible by automation. Also, automation costs a lot of money. But then what happened was they acquired 25% of the equity from Mazda, Japan. So they were allowed to see the Japanese operations, and Ford executives went to Japan to Mazda. Mazda was smaller. But even by that account, the Ford cannot reduce the manpower, because they observed that Mazda had only 5 people in their accounts payable department. They studied the process, how Mazda can manage with entire accounts payable department with only 5 people, whereas Ford needs, even for that size, at least about 100 people. There is no comparison between 100 people and 5 people. So then they studied, they found that it is based on lean principles. That is, you raise a purchase order, blanket purchase order for the entire year with a negotiated price. Entire financial year price stands fixed. And then the component deliverer, such as a tire deliverer, for example, as a Firestone, for example, they deliver the car tires to the assembly line. The coordination between the supplier and the assembly line will be done in a decentralized way based on the production planning schedules. And then the tire supplier directly comes to the assembly line, use the point of use stores. This is called POUS in lean. So they supply they deliver the tires at the point of use on the assembly line every 2 hours. Based on the number of cars left the assembly line, suppose they made 100 cars in a shift, 100 into 5, 5 tires per car, the 500 tires. As soon as the material is delivered, the payment will be done. You see, there is no individual purchase order. There is only blanket purchase order. There is no material receipt because the material is there. Material has come to POUS and it is mounted on the cars. There is no need for material, and a supplier has to guarantee zero defect. That is a part of the purchase order. Then there is no reconciliation because there is no different. There is no invoice. So these documents, purchase order, material receipt, and the invoice, which create a lot of problem for the Ford, are completely simplified by Mazda, and that's how they operate only with 5 people. So Ford engineers went back to US and started implementing Lean. One of my students was the director of manufacturing at Ford when I was in US for 12 years. He used to tell me a lot of stories on how Ford has succeeded in implementing Lean principles that they learned from Mazda and other Japanese manufacturers. This is a classic example. Now, Ford's world rule after learning. Before learning, Ford's world, we pay when we get the invoice. That was the old rule. What was the new rule? We pay when we get the material. So immediately, no, the entire thing has changed. This is a classic example of simplification. Now, service. I want to give one example in service. That is, for example, HDF. I have done a lot of projects, but we don't have time. The 40 minutes time that we have is too less to discuss and share all those things. But we share in our advanced management program many interesting examples from our own experience, from our own more than 3 decades of experience. Myself and Dr. Chandan Chowdhury, Professor Chandan Chowdhury is there, Colonel Bhargava is there. So we share this, our experience with you. So for example, HDFC, by using advanced tools and simplifying the process, their loan approval takes from days to, it has gone from days to seconds. Basically, first step is simplify the process. Second is then automate the process with the advanced artificial intelligence tools, such as deep learning, machine learning, and so on. So why complexity? Complexity is the opposite of simplicity. So why the complexity slowly creeps in? It doesn't come in just in one shot. Companies gradually accumulate complexity because of the increasing customer requirements, for example, product differentiation, new markets, and they will diversify into more products, so which increases raw material variety and part numbers, and which results in higher material costs and significant new capex, that is capital expenditure, and increase in overheads. Slowly, no, it doesn't happen in one shot. Complexity slowly creeps into the organizations. You have to be extremely alert and vigilant about the creeping complexity into your organizations. So I want to share some of the greatest people's sayings, that progress is man's ability to complicate simplicity. So he's a Belgian explorer and biologist. About him, you can read in the Wikipedia. So we somehow make things complicated because of our lack of insight into the simplicity. And if you consider what Leonardo da Vinci, one of the greatest creative minds of all time, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. For example, you look at iPhone, single button, but behind that single button, there is a lot of complexity. There is a lot of sophistication. To the user, it looks very simple, but to arrive at that simplicity, Apple has worked for thousands of hours. So you will achieve simplicity because you understood complexity. This is what you have to keep in mind. And also, great leader. If you are considering your leader, yourself as the future leader in the area of manufacturing and operations, you consider that the great leaders are always great simplifiers. As Colin Powell, who was the US general and also foreign secretary during Bush administration. So do you want to become a great leader? Then you have to acquire a lot of knowledge and practical experience in the art of simplicity. That's what my humble submission to all of you who are listening to this lecture. Then how do you implement? You do this targeted automation. So here you do the Pareto analysis of your costs first, then select the highest cost items and try to look for opportunities for simplification. Then you first elimination of waste, then simplification. Then you have to standardize and look for horizontal deployment opportunities. Then you have to automate. Those who go first for automation uh, normally will not be successful. You can read the greatest story of General Motors tying up with Fanuc in the 1980s, robotic manufacturer, Japanese robotic manufacturer Fanuc. They wanted to reduce the labor cost. They went in for heavy automation and they ultimately failed. Roger Smith's vision of automation was founded on the wrong foundations. I mean, it was based on wrong foundations. The entire story you can read on Google, how automation went to completely failed, at General Motors during the Roger Smith era when he was the CEO. So do the Pareto analysis of your costs. Where are the costs? Because ultimately companies must provide value at the lowest possible cost. That's important. And then you also must understand where humans excel, where the machines excel. So on the right hand side, black square, you can see machines. Actual machine activity, fully 100% you can automate. Machines can do that. There are many, many examples of machines, but because of the time limitation, we will not be able to go into that. On the leftmost side, you can see humans only. The machines cannot do these jobs. For example, it cannot lead. It cannot lead means it cannot be a leader. A robot cannot become a leader of a company, a chairman or CEO of a company or a managing director of a company. They don't have emotions. They cannot create things on their own. Of course, there are many things are coming up now in the design also. Artificial intelligence is coming in a big way. For example, regenerative design, topological design, and so on. They cannot make a judgment like humans do with empathy and other things. So these are two extremes which you should keep in mind. On the left hand side, humans only activity in your jobs, in your company, in your jobs, how many jobs or how many tasks. Yeah, task means a job consists of several tasks. Entire job may not be able to be automated. But some tasks can be identified for automation purposes, thereby relieving the person to do creative things. On the rightmost side, machine only activity, for example, welding lines or the painting lines or so many things are there which can be automated, or decision making to some extent with artificial intelligence tools, or inspection, for example, part inspection and so on. In between, there are two blocks which you can see: humans complement machines, machines complement humans. So you have to come out with this kind of framework for automation. And before automation, you must remember that you must be an expert in simplification. That is all I want to share. My lecture is over. And here you can see our students. We teach all these things. And here you can see myself in the classroom with our last batch students, along with Professor Chandan Chaudhary, who is the senior associate DN at ISB, and also he's the executive director of Munjal Institute for Global Manufacturing and Poonj Lloyd Institute for Infrastructure. This is how we teach. These are the very advanced tools, where many advanced tools are not known for many Indian manufacturing leaders. So we cover all these things. As you know, we take only experienced students. We don't take freshers. At least 5 years experience is required. And this is one of the batches which I taught the tools which I just mentioned during my lecture, such as axiomatic design, design structure matrix, and so on. And also you see Colonel Rajiv Bhargava, who is introducing Harish Chavan. He is the managing director of Swaraj Tractors Limited. We have distinguished speaker series. We invite the greatest leaders in manufacturing and operations to talk to our students, interact. That day, Harish Chavan delivered a talk on simplicity, which is coincidentally our topic today. And uh, he explained how they reduce the number of transmission lines, transmission models from 16 to 8 at Swaraj Tractors, because customers are demanding many different types of tractors with the different horsepowers. So each horsepower capacity tractor needs a different transmission, but you cannot satisfy all the customers. So they need to simplify the number of transmissions required for different types of tractors. They reduce the number of transmissions from 18 to, 16 to 8 or so. So that was the lecture given by Sri Harish Chavan. And here you can see myself and Colonel Bhargava gifting our ISB stamps to the distinguished speaker. And in our program, students are supposed to apply their knowledge. They whatever they learned in the classroom during this program, online or classroom, during this 1-year program, advanced management program for manufacturing and operations, they have to apply, do an action learning project. Here in the picture, you are seeing a team of people presenting their project in the classroom. This was last year. So that is the end of it. And thank you very much. And I would like to invite Colonel Rajiv Bhargava so that, we will explain to you our advanced management program. And then we will move on to the next Q&A.
Sure, sir. I think, thank you very much, sir, for this an excellent presentation. And what came across was the simplicity of your presentation in driving home the point as to how to eliminate complexity, especially the ESSA. When you talk about it, it is very interesting. Eliminate, simplify, standardize, and then automate. So this has been a very, I'm sure the attendees have derived a lot of value from this. And I must bring it to the notice of the attendees, although you have also mentioned it, that Professor Pratap is the academic director for the Advanced Management Program for Manufacturing and Operations. And he's also teaching certain very, very pertinent subjects like management of new products, and maybe, there are certain other topics also, like emerging topics in manufacturing and quality management and manufacturing planning and control, and strategic management of operations, where all these, aspects that he mentioned about play a major role. Students who are able to, who attend these programs are able to obtain a lot of clarity in the operations and pick up a large number of tools, which he has mentioned, for using them and employing them in their workstations or on their workplace, and differentiate themselves from their colleagues. And as Professor Pratap had brought out, I think one of the most important aspects that we have is the action learning project, which we lay a lot of emphasis. So Professor Pratap, I would request that in case, if you can just highlight, say, one or, case where you were really impressed with how the work has been done by the students. I think this will give them a good idea as to how we work on this.
Yeah. Thank you, Rajiv. So our students usually are grouped into 4 to 5 people in each team. And last year, we had two batches. One batch is in advanced manufacturing and operations, advanced management program for manufacturing and operations, and another group in infrastructure management. So about 10 projects, they did 10 projects. One of the very interesting projects is application of Industry 4.0 solution to reduce the inventories and streamline the supply chain process at GHCL. That is, GHCL is a chemical manufacturer.
Yeah, Gujarat Heavy Chemicals Limited.
Gujarat Heavy Chemicals Limited. So they have reduced inventories based on the learnings through this program by applying Industry 4.0 solutions. So the savings are huge, something like more than 100 crores. So that is one example which I can share with all the people who are listening to this webinar, this masterclass. So that is one example. Second is traceability in textiles.
Yes.
So
This is a
traceability
very nice one.
project.
Yes.
The students from Trident, they did this project on traceability that is being demanded by customers all over the world. So the cotton should be organic. These are customers are demanding because of the changing conditions, climate change, or sustainability, and so on. So they did a very good project on traceability of textiles. So like that, there are very good projects our students did. And this is a compulsory. This ALP, Action Learning Project, has 2 credits. Without completing ALP, you will not be able to graduate. So you have to apply the knowledge that you have gained in this program and show the result to the company in terms of many times savings in terms of many times. So these are 2 examples I can share.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Ranjit.
Yeah, so actually I see that one of the attendees has posed a question as to what would be the modus operandi for the classes for the next batch, that is class of 2021. So let me say that the class of 2021 commences on 29th of January, and the first residency, as we call it, we call it a residency because people come and stay on campus. So the first residency is of 10 days, and it will continue from January till February 7. And people, there would be in-person classes with the faculty. Of course, one thing remains that in case government regulations and the prevalent conditions then they require, then obviously we may have to accordingly follow what the government says. But we are planning to do this on campus, and there are 4 such residencies over the year, and all 4 would be on campuses. The second residency being in Hyderabad, and all the other 3 being in Mohali. Now, Professor, there are a number of questions which are there.
Yeah.
And as usual, I will request Avi he is the expert in really sorting out questions and bringing them out to the fore and coming up with the real important questions. So Avi Basu, I'll request you to just quickly, and we have, luckily, sir has been very, finished on time. So we have approximately 10 minutes. So I think that is a lot of time for the Q&A session. Avi, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Colonel Rajiv. Thank you, Professor Pratap. I'll start with the first question, and it says that, what would be the benchmark for standardized process?
It depends upon the process. It depends upon the manufacturing type or service type and so on. But for example, if you take manufacturing, if you make a value stream map in the automotive sector, Toyota is the benchmark. Toyota has 50% of value addition percentage. Many Indian companies do not cross 10%. So that is a manufacturing example. Service example, similarly, service means what? Banking service, health service, no. So they did so many different things are there. So there is no published extensive research has not been done in establishing the benchmarks. But in automotive sector, for lean implementation, there are benchmarks. For services, no benchmarks are available. But looking at the pace of technology, you can see that you have to come out with a plan to make your company as a benchmark. We offer all our knowledge in this program to achieve such a thing. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. So the follow-up question is that, how automation and simplification and automation process can reduce the scam in the service sectors. I mean, though it is a bit off track from the manufacturing, but automation in service sectors play a major role as well. So hence, what's your take on that? How automation can reduce scam in that?
See, machine learning, deep learning, all these are coming in a big way to detect fraud. So these tools you will not be able to achieve zero fraud or zero cheating or zero stealing. For example, credit cards. No, credit card. Somebody steals a credit card number and then they buy things for themselves. So that credit card fraud is one big issue. In the US, Visa and MasterCard, all these people, they were losing about $50 billion a year on the credit card fraud. So I myself when I lived in US, whenever I used to come to India, use my credit card, there used to be fraudulent charges from India. For example, at Delhi airport, I used my credit card. So immediately there was an extra $150 charged to my account. And in US, it is very simple. You just say that call and they say that this transaction you have not done. That's all. They will start investigating. But those old days are gone. Now artificial intelligence, such as machine learning, deep learning are coming in a very big way, which will reduce the fraud in services. But at the same time, it will not be 0%. Thank you.
So the follow-up question is from Sai Kumar, and his question remains: should manufacturers consider a bottom-up approach for lean transformation?
See, lean has matured in India very much. If you want to implement lean, roadmaps are readily available. And if you consider the Indian transformation in the lean implementation, it started with one company called Lucas TVS, which I visited in 1986. Yeah, Lucas TVS is an automotive component manufacturer. So they started the lean implementation in 1986. Let's say 1985. 35 years have gone by. Now, if you look at Wikipedia, Deming Prize, about 40 companies, to be exact, 39 companies have won the Deming Prize. Deming Prize is awarded for the best company which has implemented lean principles and TQM. TQM means total quality management. So the roadmaps are very clearly available. I request you to, his name is Sai Kumar, no, Avi? So, yes, Sai Kumar, please read a book or SMS me or send a WhatsApp to me. I will send the details to you. Email is the best actually. Pratap Sundar, Pratap_Sundar@isb.edu. So I will send some literature to you so that you can create a roadmap for your own company. Okay. Thank you very much.
So the next question again, in the AI ML sector, and it's coming from Puneet. His question is that, presently he's working as a technology consultant, and his question remains: is it correct to use technology pieces such as ML AI to assist engineer in doing activities such as VSM, Six Sigma projects, etc.?
Yes, very much. Very much. They can take the advantage of technology. If you talk about lean, value stream mapping, for example, there are already templates available. They need not start from scratch. If you type just in Google templates in Excel, you get a lot of free templates. You can use them to minimize the time to make a value stream map. In Six Sigma also, there are many softwares are there. For example, design of experiments. No, you can do it very fast using Minitabs, a type of software. Then when you come to DFSS, design for Six Sigma, there are a lot of softwares have come. For example, Autodesk, if you see, regenerative design, generative design, whose brand name is Dreamcatcher. So many CAD companies such as Autodesk, ProE, or Dassault, All these companies have come out with a lot of artificial intelligence embedded in their design projects. So for lean, uh, Six Sigma, or design for Six Sigma, or total productive maintenance, which is a component of lean, all these things are embracing artificial intelligence technology, especially TPM, total productive maintenance. It is embracing artificial intelligence application like anything, so that you can remotely monitor your machine, remotely monitor your factory, entire production line, and so on. So artificial intelligence has already entered in a big way into manufacturing. Thank you.
Correct. So the next question is from Sriram, and his question remains, he's from an IT infrastructure background. How this particular program, covers the best practices related to his domain, and also if is there any alum coming from that similar type of a background, if you can actually throw a light. Even Kanal Rajiv, if you want to share your thoughts on that,
Yeah, see, we have people in IT sector enroll in the past who enrolled into this program. Basically, IT people, when they don't know the intricacies of manufacturing and operations, not from IT perspective is already known to them. They know, but actually, what are the other implications, like inventories, for example, or the setup time reductions, or the TPM, total productive maintenance, and so on. See, this will help you in understanding how efficiently IT should help the manufacturing and operations to achieve business objectives. We had students from IT background in the past, and they were very happy. They learned a lot. So that is what I can say. I request Rajiv to add in case he has so he wants to say something.
No, I think, sir, you have covered it very well. That is fine. I think that answers the question.
yeah, it's the contextual awareness that becomes important, because IT industry is something that adds as an value added services to for any such industry, but the backbone always remains when you add a much more contextual awareness. And AMPMO is one such program that gives you a lot of contextual awareness in terms of the manufacturing operation domain. Parallelly, the infrastructure program gives you that understanding of how the core infrastructure, for contextual awareness you can get it. Now, moving on to the next question, it's from Briksha, it's from Pankaj. His question remains, what should India do to improve global competitiveness in manufacturing? India's push for manufacturing is too little, too late. China is already 20 years ahead with the global manufacturing hub. Both, Professor Pratap, what's your comment on it?
So this is this is true. See, here manufacturing and design and innovation is where India has to do a lot of work now. Not merely manufacturing. Both in design and manufacturing, Chinese are far ahead, because initially, about 20 years back, they used to copy world's designs. Now they are into original engineering, original innovation, original. They went into that stage. India has to go in that direction. And I feel that India should invest a lot of money in innovation and design, then in manufacturing. Manufacturing, anyhow, there is some maturity in India by the implementation of lean, industry 4.0, and so on. And also, all the manufacturing companies in India should all quickly embrace industry 4.0 solutions. Otherwise, they will go behind.
And,
Yeah.
and I would, of course, like to add, sir, that as you mentioned about how design and processes and other such things, the fact is that the real value add takes place at that juncture. And where if we are just duplicating others, or we are putting stamps on what we receive from others, there is very less value add, and that does not really contribute towards manufacturing.
Thank you, Rajiv. Very, very valid, very good point. Thank you, Rajiv.
The next question is from Professor Subhash, and his question remains, how robotic process production is suitable for recycling in industry?
Yeah, recycling is a little bit complicated because of segregation. So segregation is not done at the source. Segregation has to be done at the recycling facility. And somehow government with the now with the planning of smart cities and other things, I am hoping that segregation will be done in a better way at the source. So that is the first step. There is no point in building robots to segregate the waste, mixed up waste. So, but anyhow, some portion of it will be inevitably mixed up, which are called monstrous hybrids. So a lot of research is going on in the robots for recycling. And I request you to read on Google, the AMP company called AMP is making recycling robots for recycling, disassembly lines, recycling lines. So please read about AMP company and their robotics, how much money they are investing. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and Professor Pratap, thank you. I think we have reached the time of 8 p.m. And you have been, I must say, on behalf, because others are muted, so I have the privilege of speaking for others, that this has been a tremendous talk, and it opens the mind as to how simplicity is the essential requirement for anything else. And I have Professor Chandan Chaudhary, who is the Executive Director for the Munjal Institute for Global Manufacturing, and also a Senior Academic Dean, a Senior Associate Dean at Indian School of Business. So may I request Professor Chaudhary to say a few words before we close?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Professor Pratap, I think this was a very interesting session. I would like to say that I think India's manufacturing sector can actually go to the next level of growth, and this would demand real leaders in the manufacturing sector. And today there is a huge shortage, and I think our advanced management program is a program which can really create leaders. So this program has been jointly designed by ISB and MIT Sloan in consultation with many industry leaders, and we are very committed to this sector. I think this manufacturing puzzle somehow India has not been able to solve. So our idea is how India can increase manufacturing sector's contribution to GDP, not in terms of absolute number, but also in terms of manufacturing value add, how that can increase, because that has been declining and it's a matter of concern. Thank you, Professor Pratap. That was wonderful.
Thank you,
Thank you everybody for joining.
Thank you everyone for your presence. I think the audience has come up with some very intelligent questions, and we really thank you for participating with such dynamism and with such interest. And we will continue to have such a lecture series. So please be on the watch. And within this month itself, we will be having 2 more talks, and that will be followed by a couple of talks in December. So please do keep, keep tab of our emails and our other such communications to you. And we do hope that we together can make a difference and make India a better country and a more, and will enable India to find its place under the sun. Thank you very much. Have a great day ahead. All the best.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you, Avi. Thank you, Avi.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you.
Bye.